Product placement. Obviously, it's growing because of people fast forwarding and skipping commercials. So if you can make your product integral to the program, embedded in the program, people will see it. But of course, the issue is it's a little hard to do hard sell with support and demos of the product superiority and offers and things like that in product placement. I mean, you're lucky if you just get the brand package shown in a hopefully positive way, but still a growing phenomenon. So, evaluating media types, which we've been talking about all term. First is CPM. We'll review the CPM for TV in a second. Quality of impression. We've talked a lot about that. We'll kind of summarize that, and measurability. TV actually is still not completely measurable, regular TV, just because you don't click it. I mean, nothing's quite like the internet. However, a video that runs on a website or on your phone, that can be pretty measurable. It's another difference between video on other devices versus video on your home TV. They want to make it measurable, but what they mostly have is viewership and impressions as determined by Nielsen's ratings. Ratings. Okay, oh, that's my little symbol for the impression. One person seeing one ad one time. Bop. And that. Okay, so this is our good old CPM chart. Television's on the left, and the dollars are going up and down vertically. Primetime, of course, primetime spot TV is the most expensive in terms of CPM. Network TV excluding primetime can be pretty cheap, and network TV primetime is also very expensive on a CPM basis. So overall, I think we could say TV's on the expensive side, as we've been saying, not just to produce the ads, but actually on a CPM basis also. And these are the things we've talked about in terms of quality of impression, sight, sound, motion. Well, we have it all with TV. Depth of sale varies with TV, right, based on whether it's a 15-second ad or an infomercial. So it can be very, very, very good. Avoidability, well, it is pretty avoidable. I can change channels and I can fast forward through ads. So, and I can also just not pay attention. Now, by the way, this is something else I picked up from the paper today. This is something that ran in the New York Times 1962 during the so-called Cuban Missile Crisis. This is John Kennedy on a TV set, big living room TV set, big piece of furniture, which is what people had in the 60s. Moving to color, but it looks like this one's probably black and white, as is the rest of the photograph. So just a word about why I put this here. So television, a visual medium, and I just want you to remember how we looked back at different presidents and leaders using the new media types, and how we had Abraham Lincoln using newspapers, sending letters to the editor and getting his thoughts out that way to the whole country. We had FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, another president, along with Lincoln, who managed us during a crisis, a national crisis. Lincoln, of course, it was the Civil War. FDR was the Great Depression and then World War II, and FDR was a master of the radio. And we talked about his fireside chats that he gave every week when he was just talk to people like people. and explain things very simply in a warm way. You also saw he was in one of the first TV broadcasts, commercial broadcasts, in the 30s. But a lot of people say the reason John Kennedy won the presidential election versus his Republican opponent, Richard Nixon, in 1960 was because Kennedy looked good on TV. Okay, he gave a very good visual impression, audio impression as well, but mostly visual impression. In the debates, which they had, the two of them, Nixon appeared kind of sweaty and a little uncomfortable. I think he refused to have him put pancake makeup on him, but Kennedy said, yeah, go ahead, put on the makeup. It was very natural and good on TV. And and provided some great leadership in the Cuban Missile Crisis. So visual TV. Let's just move on here, remembering it's television. And the last one I wanted to put up, this is one item that I've only added, started thinking about it last year when I talked about media, but I really included it this year because the more I think about the difference between something I see on my mobile phone and something I see, for instance, on my home TV, has a big difference based on the size, and particularly of the impression. That's another reason out of home, which is the biggest medium, has impact. It's huge. They're not all huge. Some of them are little videos and elevators, so it varies. But out of home has the opportunity to be absolutely huge. Look at Times Square. Look at those videos, by the way, running on the screens in Times Square and out of home. So we've got videos, not just place-based video, but we've got regular out-of-home billboards running video in Times Square. They can't on the highways. It's too distracting for drivers. But in Times Square, where it's mostly pedestrian traffic, they can't run sound, but they can run video all day if they want to. Anyway, size of picture has an effect on impact, which has an effect on the quality of the impression. And that's one reason why the TV in your home is kind of a special, really high quality impression. So are ads that run in movie theaters, by the way. There are companies that sell those ads. That's a great impression as well. But I guess what we get back to in a way is that, remember when we did definitions of television, the first one was programming sent, over the waves or airwaves or the cable or whatever, to a device, you can look at. And then the second definition was the device, the television. And this is a television. It's not a phone. It's not a computer screen. It's a television. So when we talk about television impressions, I think we need to think about devices, and we need to think about impact. And I think this will be one reason why these big TV sets in our homes will always be attractive to advertisers, particularly as people are watching more things on them, like first-run movies. What have we talked about in the last long stretches of these lectures? We started out talking about free speech. I'm not going to summarize that whole discussion now, but we just raised the issue, and we will be talking more about abuse of free speech and public walls that people write on, physically and metaphorically, and who's on the other side of the medium. We'll be talking about that more in our next medium we explore, which will be internet. And we gave our TV lecture basically talking about a business that's very much in flux for a lot of reasons. I think we touched on a few of them. This TV, the hardware, the content. I think what we've said is it's both, but hardware is an important factor. as we think about it. And in our specific lecture about TV, and again, I'm not going to hit everything in detail here, but in today's second part of the lecture, we mostly focused on buying TV and ratings, and how to do that in a smart way, how we buy points, or how we buy impressions. We talked about TV creative and the need to kind of break out from the pack a little bit and be noticed, that you can do recall testing to make sure your creative works before you put it on the Super Bowl. Might be a good idea. Before spending $5 million, that you spend $20,000 or $30,000 to test your TV ad. Talked about key players and all the consolidation, the move towards streaming. And then we summarized, I think, by talking about why the business is in flux and all the changes, and we even touched on this current crisis that the world is in with this pandemic and some impact it's already having and may indeed continue to have on all of us, including our media habits. Not the most important thing in the world. As we all know, our own health and our families and the people we care about are way, way more important, what happens to them than what happens with media. But nevertheless, we're studying media, and so I brought it up. We talked about advantages and disadvantages, and we talked about the TV impression, etc. And I hope overall you've come away from this long discussion of TV understanding the medium better than you did before. And so I hereby conclude Class 7 TV in Flux. Thanks, guys.